Hey guys, welcome to JReviews. I am Iceman, and this time round I'll be covering all three of the inFamous games which were on the Sony PlayStation 3. Note that I will be delving into spoilers on all three games, so be warned. The inFamous series on the PS3 follows lead character Cole McGrath in an open world action setting, with the unique angle being of you having the godlike powers of electricity. So it has the feel of a GTA game, except with you moving about and taking on enemies with electricity powers. And combined with that, the ability to climb up buildings and walls much in the same way as Spider-Man. And, in combination, in much the same way as the Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic RPG series, the games feature a morality meter with good and bad actions awarding powers as you move more in either direction. The first game was released in 2009, and the sequel's inFamous 2 was released in 2011, with Festival of Blood, the expansion to that, released that same year. The first game begins with the player character Cole McGrath opening a package known as the Ray Sphere. This sets off a massive explosion which completely destroys a block of the city. In the process, this activates electric powers within him, and Cole then sets out to find the source of that and learn more about his powers. The narrative to the game is told through a combination of comic book style video sequences and in-game cutscenes. The feel of this game is very similar to Grand Theft Auto, except with the big difference being with all the powers at your disposal, and that respect takes on elements of Spider-Man, as I mentioned before, as you can climb buildings, leap off them without injury, ride along train tracks and power lines, shoot electricity from your hands, blow enemies away, rain and lightning down from the sky, and so much more. The overall atmosphere of the game gives it a very comic book style feel, especially with the first game, less with the sequels. The graphics in the games definitely improved in the later sequels, but is great overall. The lighting effects when using your powers is great, and you can see some pretty impressive explosions from the later powers that you gain. Overall, I'd say that the graphics are good, but not remarkable. Very PS3 level era stuff. Music in the game you don't hear that often, and most of what you do hear is more background ambient style stuff. In the more combat heavy section there is music, but there was no music in the series that stood out for me. So if you said to me inFamous, I wouldn't think of any particular music in particular at all really, because there is nothing that really jumps out. Not that it's terrible or anything, it's just that nothing really jumps out. Gameplay wise, as mentioned, this game has elements of Grand Theft Auto with the open world city settings, and elements of Spider-Man with the way you move about and the use of powers to take on enemies and obstacles. In all three of the games you start off with basic electric style attacks, and then as you gain experience you can use that to improve your powers, which bit by bit turns you into more of a god. To power your abilities, you need to drain electricity from nearby sources, which takes a few seconds to fully power up, leaving you vulnerable to attack during that time. To delve more into the specific powers, in the first game you start off with the lightning bolt, which arcs out electricity from your hands. Then progressively you gain access to more advanced powers as you gain experience. You also can use your experience points to reduce damage taken and improve melee attacks. In the second game it follows a very similar formula, with the main difference being that for every power that you gain, you can use alternate versions which come with different special effects, and later gain access to ice and wind based powers later on for a greater variety in how you choose to play. As to how the flow of the game works, as you progress through the game, more areas of the city will open up, offering good, bad, neutral, and story based missions. These award experience and sometimes new powers. As you complete the missions, the story progresses, unlocking more areas of the city and so on. The look of the areas changes as you progress, from the traditional city-like areas at first, to more slum-style environments, industrial, sewers, and more. Enemy variety is good in both games, though far better in the second. Each district of the city has unique enemies, different to the next, and require different tactics to take out. Both games feature a fair bit of side content as well, with optional missions and collectibles to be found, which come with the added bonus of increasing your electricity pool that you can draw on to use for powers. On the subject of sequels, for the PlayStation 3 there was 2 sequels to the original inFamous game. The first inFamous 2, which graphically was far superior to the first game, but reduced Cole's powers down majorly. Where in the first game you felt like a god by the end of it, the second had you more just feeling like a guy with some extra powers. Other changes was a change in voice actor and character model. Gone was the imposing look of the main character and more of a change to looking like a young teenager. Personally, I wasn't a fan of the new voice acting, as the new voice guy has a lisp and just doesn't sound as imposing or powerful as the original voice actor present in the original game. On the positive end, you gain far more powers over the course of that game and can branch out into wind and ice powers, which is a nice level of choice in how to play. Searching for optional collectibles is far more extensive in the sequel, and there is a good variance in the look and style of the various sections of the city that you'll travel through. Difficulty wise, it's a far harder game to the first as well. You will die a lot in this one. The second game takes away the comic book style cutscenes which featured prominently in the first game. I was not a fan of that at all, because it makes for a drastic change in the overall style of the game as a whole. A good positive of the second game was in character development. As characters go through changes and develop as people, there was some good genuine laughs in this one. I particularly enjoyed the buddy relationship between Cole and his best friend Zeke. This was done far better in the sequel. The third game of sorts was inFamous Festival of Blood and acts as a side story to the second game. It delves into a Halloween-style vampire plague that falls over the city and is up to Cole to save everyone. New in this one is vampire powers and more just playing as an evilish character, as there is no negative in it for doing negative style actions. This one is very short. You'll be through the whole thing in about 3 to 4 hours max. It's interesting but skippable. You're not really missing anything by not playing it. Bugs wise, all bugs that I experienced playing through the 3 games recently were all emulation related. Playing them on the original hardware, I do not recall any bugs of any kind ever happening. Overall, the inFamous series is excellent and a truly unique series of games. I'd highly recommend them to people who love superhero style stuff, as well as those who enjoy open world games but are looking for something that's a little bit different. As to which of the games is the best of the 3, well, that's debatable. Personally, I prefer the first as it has more of a comic book style to it, and you feel like a god after you're about 3/4 of the way into it. The second, in comparison, is far more challenging and has some damn fine combat in it, plus much better character development. So really, either the first or second game is worth playing. Third, though, isn't really worth it in my opinion, and more of a side story to the second game. So that is all I have to say on the inFamous series. If you've enjoyed this video and would like to see more videos in this series, be sure to just hit the subscribe channel, and also just check out my channel for further videos, and you'll find out what else is available. And with that, this is Iceman of JReviews signing out. Guys, have a good one.